Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Lineage Independent Publishing's Monday Madness. With me today are Pat Donahue, who writes under the nom de plume G.B. Carmichael,
Hi.
Martin Radford, who writes under the nom de plume of Beck Hilliard, and myself. I'm the owner of Lineage Independent Publishing, author and editor and publisher. And hopefully we will have some people joining us from the outside. But before we get started with our general discussion, I want to talk for a couple of minutes about our books being available on Amazon and what happens with all the price fluctuations that people are seeing. One of the first things that we notice on Amazon is that price reductions. Okay, those price reductions are actually good in the way that they are selling the books for basically less than what it costs to print them. On the other hand, if you see prices that are higher than our original publisher's recommended retail price, it means a third-party seller has taken a hold of that book and are trying to market it as their own. You can usually tell when that happens if you see fulfilled by another company name that isn't Amazon, which means that what they've done is they've taken the Amazon retail price, added a markup to that, plus their shipping costs, and then are trying to sell the book, at an inflated price. So, just be aware of that when you're looking for our books. For our U.S. readers and our U.S. customers, one of the things that we do is we allow distributor direct ordering from our print house, Ingram Spark, which has allowed us to reduce our retail prices by as much as $3 a copy for the paperbacks. But unfortunately, they charge shipping and, of course, sales tax on top of that in the U.S. And there is no counterpart to that for the U.K. and Europe just yet, unfortunately. So you're pretty much at the mercy of Amazon. So it is what it is. The other thing I've done recently is I've reduced the price in honor of the 5th anniversary of Lineage Independent Publishing's existence, is I've dropped the prices for all of my digital books down to 99 cents or 99 pence a copy. They are widely available for any digital platform. That's Nook, Kindle, Kobo, library copies. Well, library is separate. I shouldn't even talk about library. So that's pretty much the news at the moment. I'll talk about the website a little bit more towards the end of the program. So, Pat, let's start with you. We've had a relatively busy fall, winter so far, with getting the Bexhill Writers Group anthology out, and you're working on a book of your own at the moment. So, what are you working on?
I'm actually working on the Black Knights Ride White Horses.
Okay.
The Special Forces story that I spoke to you about.
Ooh.
But I'm also looking at the Choo Choo McPuff and the Dinosaurs for the boys in the family. Another children's book. It just depends who talks to me when I sit down at the computer. And at the moment, not many people are talking to me. I'm just sort of getting static when I sit down to write at the moment. It's been a bit rough ever since I did the Pebbles on the Beach. My brain went into a different mode doing that, and I haven't been able to drag it out of the mire and back into normal thinking. But I managed a story for the writers group at the end of January, so I'm slowly getting back in there, and I have started writing more of the Black Knight story.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where it's going. That's what's bugging me. I don't know. I know what's going to happen to 2 of them, but I don't know what's going to happen in the whole story.
But isn't that part of the fun of being a writer, is not knowing where the story is going to go?
Well, it is if you're the kind of writer that we are, which are the sort of flying by the seat of your pants
right
type. But imagine how that must feel to somebody who sits down and decides, this is where I'm starting, this is where I want to end up, and this is what I want to happen in the middle. That would drive me insane. How would you? I couldn't do that.
I'd be revising that outline several times over.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to do it with ground faults. I had to do it because I had so many different characters going on in that book, and so many different things happening that I had to make sure that I had the chronological sequence correct as far as the electrification stuff went. But in your case, I mean, special forces is nothing that you can predict, and
because you don't know what they're going to do, because unless it's people like, is it Jack? No, not Jack Ryan. I've forgotten his name now. There's quite a few anyway.
Jack Reacher, Jack Ryan.
No. The ex-SAS lads over here have published books.
Gotcha.
Apparently not meant to be about things that they have done, but you've got to draw on what you know. So I'm assuming that some of the stuff it is. But having spoken to one of the original SAS chaps, Pat Riley, I used to work for him. Well, I didn't work for him. I worked for a company who sent me out to help care for him. And he told me stories that all this Geneva Convention business had nothing to do with what they did to get the things done. And so I don't know how I can sort of take this forward, because I may have a character do something that is not acceptable under the Geneva Convention.
But it's fiction, Pat. It's fiction.
Well, yeah. And I have to hide behind that because I do know that it happened. And we know that it's happened in the last years. We've had people being prosecuted from Northern Ireland, things that happened over there. We've had things that happened sort of in America. You've got, well, let's not go to Guantanamo Bay or any of the other bits there, but we know things happen that shouldn't maybe happen. So my character may well do whatever they feel like it.
Well, remember, we put that disclaimer right on the copyright page at the beginning of every book. This is a work of fiction. Any connection between individuals living or dead is purely coincidental.
Yeah.
So I mean,
one of the characters in the book is it sets sort of loosely around the 60s, 70s, 60s, late 70s, mid 70s. And he's gay. And he's in the special forces.
Okay.
Neither of which can be known.
Right.
He cannot be gay and he cannot be in the special forces publicly.
Right.
And somebody on the other side has gotten hold of the knowledge that he is gay and has compromised him. So I know where we're going with him. And before they go out on the mission, one of the other ones his marriage has failed. She's fed up waiting for him to come home and been playing the floozy all over camp. So I know it's terrible.
It still sounds very interesting. I mean, but because you're bringing into the book or would be bringing in social concepts. Yeah. That back in the 60s and 70s, it was, shock horror. I mean, you couldn't be in the military, you couldn't be in government service, and
be openly gay.
Exactly.
And so many of those poor souls were put in the most awful predicaments when members of foreign states got that information because they put pressure on them to facilitate things that they wanted to happen.
Right.
All the filthy stuff and everything like that,
All right. So Martin, what are you working on right now?
I'm still working on my second book for the old gits, so to speak. I've named it Life is a Funny Old Thing. It consists of a lot of extra stories that weren't available previously, or didn't have enough room to get into the last one. And it starts off with one of my favourite characters, Auntie Mary. And she ends up going into an old folks' home. It's my usual sort of parodies of, the way that the old people, although I'm one now, tend to speak and act and everything else. So, yeah, I've slowed right down as well. I mean, I had COVID first time. And to be fair, I spend a lot of time napping every afternoon there on the sofa. So I haven't got the output I had previously, but I mean, I was doing it a couple of years ago. I don't know, having a tinker on there. I spend an awful lot of time, to be fair, editing and proofing. So hopefully it'll save you a bit of trouble as and when. So I don't know. Not only that, I tend to like repetitive things anyway. And yeah, everybody, I'm Martin Radford, and I was and still could be Brett Beck Hilliard. If I could ask you a question, Mike.
Sure.
You were talking about Amazon. One of the things we don't have here in the UK is access to Vela.
Right.
Now, as Pat just said, and I did contribute in the same book for the Bexhill writers, that you have lots of little stories you write. You've not necessarily got any way of getting them out there.
Right.
And some of them, I think, are publish worthy as a short story. So, would you be able to enable Vela via Lineage?
I certainly can consider it. From the standpoint that it is right now limited to the U.S. market, and the problem I'll have to talk to you about that offline, because there's a lot of there are a lot of whys and wherefores with that. For our other authors that may be out there watching this broadcast, Vela allows people to post smaller episodic writings.
That's what I was thinking.
I guess like the old newspaper serial stories used to be. And that's kind of what the concept is behind Vela. But it is somewhat cumbersome, as Pat has found out, and that there's a word minimum that you have to hit before you can even post.
600 words, was it?
It's 600 words. Yeah. So we have to have a 600 word minimum. It needs to lend itself to a serialized presentation or short story type presentation. And then there are some other administrative issues, Martin, that are all sausage making that we can talk about afterwards.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just thought.
But it is. I mean, it's
put them in an anthology.
Yeah, or just do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we do one story every month, so you've got 12 stories just from those.
Yeah, agreed.
So,
not that all of them are publishable, but
well, it all depends. I mean, because what happens is when you start putting stuff together. Look what happened with Canongate to Cannon Shell and We Meet Again. Both of those started off, or at least with We Meet Again, started off as an idea for a novel, and it ended up being boom! It ended up being broken down into short stories.
And I do 2 short stories a month, because Beryl and I, the other ladies, we get together, and I also go to the writers group. So I do 2 short stories a month normally. So in 2 years, I've got an anthology. If they're worth worrying about, some of them aren't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as long as we're all here in 2 years.
Well, that's true too.
I mean, considering I look back and I say I've been doing this for 5 years now, almost 6 really, when you count the time for getting the first book out the door before I formed the company. And I started that pretty much the same time, right after I retired from government service here in the United States. And that book came out, and then I formed the company about 4 months later, and here it is, February of 2024, and it's been 5 years. Where did it go?
I can only speak about the last 3.
So, I mean,
and they flew.
Yeah. Well, and then I mean, Lisa's been with me the longest of anybody. Lisa Talbot is one of our other authors who couldn't join us today. But she's been with us the longest, and it's just amazing the amount of material that we've put out in aggregately in 5 years. 26 books.
Yeah.
and trying to catalog all 26 of them in a usable way is part of what's driving me bananas with doing a new website.
I mean, Lisa's the reason that I'm here.
Yeah.
Because
you're the reason Martin's here, and I'm the reason.
Lorna's because of Lisa.
Yeah. So, but it's a fun, I won't say it's a fun, anything other than a hobby / social opportunity for all of us, because let's face it, we
ain't getting rich on it.
Well, we certainly ain't getting rich, We don't get the free publicity that all the news anchors do, all the news readers and already celebrities do. They get all the free publicity, and here we are, slogging down in the trenches trying to put out something that we would want to read ourselves.
Like I said to you in private, I think once before, I went to a forum of the local writers groups at the invitation of the Hastings Writers Group, and one of the members there works for a publishing company, and I said to him about the fact that I find it astonishing that I work my tail off and you then work your tail off after I have to edit and prepare a book so that there is few mistakes as possible, and yet people who are celebrities and established authors can write a book, make a mistake, and it goes out. And I find that astonishing. And he said, if you're a big name, they won't tell you because they don't want to upset you, because they want the money you pull in, because people will buy the book even with the mistakes in. And I found that really soul destroying.
Mm-hmm.
For the amount of time that you and each of the authors put in, going over and over our work, trying to make sure that it is as professionally presented as Pan Books or whatever other companies are out there. And some of these people that are writing books, all they've done is had an affair with somebody they shouldn't have had an affair with. And they write about it and it goes viral and they make loads of money. It makes no sense to me. It's just so soul destroying, really.
Really annoying.
Yes.
Well, and part of it is I think we all take pride and ownership of our work.
Yes.
Like you've told me privately before, Pat, is that each of us owns our own work, but when it comes right down to it, if I suggest something, you still have the right to say no. It's staying the way I wrote it.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is. I'm a firm believer in the author having ownership of their product, and I'm just the conduit for making it, getting it out there to the world.
But that's the thing, isn't it? That when you think hundreds of books, Tolkien took years to get published.
Mm-hmm.
They are, what's her name? Harry Potter.
Oh, yeah.
Years. J.K. Rowling.
Yeah.
It took her years to get accepted by big publishing companies. They told her to go away. It was never going to be worth reading. And yet they've soared because they have worked at their craft. And rightly so, they own the right of those books. And I wouldn't want anybody. I don't know if you have seen any of this in the States, but there's been quite a lot of stuff coming through on Facebook here about television and film companies wanting authors to submit their books. And the questionnaire for that is various different questions, like what genre is it? How's it, what's it about, sort of thing. And the other bit is, will you give over to allow a film company or a TV company your work for them to edit and alter? And all the questions that I answered, the only one I said no to was that one.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, we're sorry, we can't help you.
Yeah, see, for me, there'd have to be a price behind it, because
absolutely,
and it would not be inconsequential either.
No, and I still would not give up 100% of the rights, because every time somebody suggests things like that, I always say, go back to The Thornbirds, because that was a fantastic book and the biggest pile of rubbish that ever went on television.
Mm-hmm. That was the one with Richard Chamberlain and Rachel Ward, wasn't it?
Yeah, and Richard Chamberlain was completely wrong for the character. He was supposed to be a dark, brooding character that had dark moods and things like that. And Richard Chamberlain is the biggest wet blanket going. It was so, and Colleen McCullough said that she'd never let another book be turned into a film because of it.
I mean, there is that risk. I mean, once you sign away your rights, you know, whoever purchases, and I do mean purchases those rights, you know, whoever purchased them has got got that the right to do what they want with it. Oh, we've got a comment. I'm sure most or all of y'all's books are better than some published by known authors.
Yeah.
Their books sell because of name recognition. Yeah. Exactly. That's the point we're trying to make.
Yeah. Yeah. It is a sad thing that quality writing is not the guarantee of published work.
Exactly. I've just finished reading. I'm reading a series of Patricia Cornwell novels right now. She's for what she writes. Most of her stuff is as close to perfect as you can get, from layout, punctuation, story consistency, and all that stuff. Yeah. But then, along with that, I was reading James Michener's The Source, and I found factual accuracies in his presentation. All right, granted, it's historical fiction, but at the same time, I also found grammar and punctuation errors that, and spelling errors that were just, that were, I would say, every 2 or 3 chapters, something else came up that had an error in it, Yeah. But in our own defense, we found stuff after publication even that we've had to go back and fix. And we'll not even go down that road, will we, Pat?
No, I won't say one word about the back of Pebbles on the Beach.
So, Martin, you've been awful silent there.
Me? Oh, I'm just enjoying the latter, really. No, fine. Although I do agree very strongly with what Pat has just said, to become a famous author, it just goes beyond belief how some of these people are, Harry, for example, how much of that did he actually write? Mm-hmm. Probably not one bit at all. He probably sat there chatting away over a pint of vino or whatever they have, talking to some geezer and being recorded, and then it's all made up afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
that's all wrong. It makes you feel like, why bother? You're never going to get there unless you walk down the middle of the mall naked or something, get yourself notorious, and then you've got a chance of actually selling a book. I mean, that's sort of direct equivalent, really, isn't it?
Yeah, kind of. But at the same time, like I keep telling all of us, as when we've chatted together or privately, is that we love our craft.
That's the only reason why I keep doing it, is because when I get into it, when you get that thread and it just keeps coming, you can't let go. You have to, if you're a writer, you just can't walk away from it.
Right. And the background that I had writing for the United States government, I mean, good grief. Talk about a radical departure from the type of writing I used to do.
Yeah. I can't imagine how boring that must have been.
As Detective Joe Friday would say on Dragnet, just the facts, ma'am.
Now I'm going to pretend I don't know what Dragnet is.
Likewise.
Just both.
You don't know what Dragnet is?
Of course I know. I don't want to know.
And I do.
My age.
I've been listening to it on old radio programs on my morning walks. I put on Sirius satellite radio and listen to radio classics, and Dragnet's one of the ones that come up.
Oh, cool!
Oh, crikey.
So anyway, does anybody want to hear about my work in progress?
Yes,
go on then. Yeah,
okay.
Go on.
I've been trying to guide the discussion, and now I need a little bit of prompting myself.
You can't expect us to do everything.
So, but anyway, the book that I'm working on right now, I'm about 240, 250 pages into it, is called Cannonball 204. All right. And it's set in the War of 1812, the last time the Americans and the Brits went at each other, at least in open warfare.
Yeah.
And it's centered around the Battle of Lake Erie, which the Brits, to be honest with you, the British Navy, the Lake Erie fleet got spanked big time.
They wouldn't mind. I'm sure the sailors would have loved that.
But like time of time and place, there's an element of time travel in it.
Good.
So and a little bit of math. So a pyramidal square, right?
All right. Is that what the 204 is?
Yeah, the 204. The 204. The number 204.
That's why you had to have the cannonball image of the 8.
Yes, 8 by 8.
Yeah. I went to Rye looking at the castle there because they got a stack of cannonballs there.
Yep.
I asked my friend to go up into Edinburgh Castle up there. No, it's not 8 by 8.
Yep. So, but 8 by 8 square, all right, stacks up to a 204 ball pyramid. All right. And that 204 is significant, as are the numbers 140, all right, the numbers 180, the numbers 270, and the numbers 360.
Okay, and you're not going to tell us what that is.
All points around a circle.
It's angles.
Yeah, all angles and degrees around a circle. So, but anyway, so my main character does a time hop. Around the battle.
From when to where?
From 2018 back to 1814, or I'm sorry, 2017 back to 1813.
Wow. Okay.
So,
is that all 204 cannonballs?
Yeah, 204 cannonballs. It's explained in chapter 1 or 2.
Yep. Getting the gist.
Yeah. And then it goes on from there. He meets and falls in love with a Native American woman, and in the wilds of Michigan territory.
Oh, well, of course, back then it was fine.
Yeah, it still is.
As long as you didn't.
It was allowed.
And it was all right as long as you were living out in the wilds.
Yeah,
don't bring them into the city.
Yeah, but they were a civilized tribe. They had already converted to Christianity and all that stuff, thanks to French missionaries about 100 years earlier.
Oh, right, back in the time of oh God, I can't remember his name now.
LaSalle,
the one that was the minister, the one that was the minister and the captain of the town's militia, whose daughter falls down a crevice.
Don't remember that one.
Well, you wrote it.
Did I?
Yes.
That was Iniquity and Retribution. That was back in the 1890s.
Yes.
But that had no time travel.
No, I know. But you were talking about the never mind.
Oh yeah, they tried to recover the body.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. See, I've written so many books, I forgot what I wrote. That was 7 books ago.
It's fine, because I thought for all the world I would have bet every single penny I had that the empty chair was in Canongate to Cannonshell. And it wasn't. And I was absolutely astonished that I'd left it out, because it's one of my favorite stories. So I get it.
Yeah.
Because once you've done something, it's gone, because you're into the next one.
Yep. That's part of the, but since book 6 or 7, I think, I started putting Easter eggs in all my books.
What the hell's an Easter egg?
An Easter egg is a reference back to something else that's in a previous book.
All right.
You can't necessarily remember.
Now.
Sorry, Mike.
But like I think I started that with book 6.
Yeah.
So 6, 7, 6, either 6 or 7. Anyway, where there'll be something like a paragraph or a statement somewhere in the book that refers to one of the other books in the series.
Yeah.
Just just like out of the blue, and it's there for a second and it's gone.
Mm.
Like.
So have you got a little bit of that story that you can read now?
Which, Cannonball 204?
Yeah. Just give
me
us
just a second. I've got it. All right. So let's see. Let me see what I can figure out here. So it's on my other screen. Okay. So here's basically the opening of the book.
Okay.
All right. My name is Marcus Aurelius Harris, and I recently retired from the United States Navy. Most of my career was spent as a diver. Only 44 years old at my retirement, I was eager to try recreational diving in one of the Great Lakes. I chose Lake Erie because it offered challenging conditions, minimal depths, and warmer water than the deep and cold Lake Superior or the unpredictable Lake Michigan. The western end of Lake Erie, because of the outflow of the Detroit River and Sandusky, Ohio, was also rich with naval history, having been the area of operations for Navy legend Oliver Hazard Perry in the War of 1812, and especially the Battle of Lake Erie that took place in September of 1813. All right, and then I go into there and talk about the pollution of Lake Erie and so on and so forth. All right, but then a couple paragraphs later, he's out on South Bass Island, which is the island that the Americans had their naval base on in Lake Erie, right, in 1813. And so Marcus is getting there, and he says, I arrived on the last ferry from Sandusky to South Bass Island on the day after Labor Day. From the ferry landing, I walked and checked into a tiny bed and breakfast for the next few days in the village of Put-in Bay while I awaited for the arrival of my old Navy buddy and mentor, retired Master Chief Sean Haggerty, on his boat, the Maumee Marauder. Right now, the Maumee River empties into Lake Erie at Toledo, which is in the southwest corner of the lake. All right, okay. And then I go on there to talk about the boat and the fact that Sean Haggerty can't dive anymore, but he's a dive boat captain, so he can supervise other divers. And the story evolves from there. Then somehow Marcus gets involved in the reenactment of the Battle of Lake Erie, all right, on the anniversary of the Battle of Lake Erie. And strange things begin to happen.
Wow. I love the name. Marcus Aurelius. Could you get any more pretentious?
Well, and see, that's just it. Both of his parents got killed in a car accident, all right? And he was bullied mercilessly in Catholic school because of his name.
Yeah, I bet.
And so when, as soon as people started figuring out his middle name, he really got bullied. Yeah. And finally, he left town and joined the Navy. And so it's like craft. So there's a lot of little sub stories going on in the book, but and
joining the Navy, he would have been able to stand up for his Marcus Aurelius with
in the Navy,
yeah.
So, but he never marries until he meets the Native American woman in 1814.
Okay.
Remember, he starts off in 2013. Or
yes.
2017. Sorry.
So he actually goes back in 1813. So
yes.
He's been there a year when he marries her.
About 6 months.
All right. Okay.
About 6 months.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff happening with that.
So his genes are actually guaranteed, aren't they?
Maybe not.
What did you say, Martin?
I said his genes are guaranteed.
Well,
if he was back then, and that was his great granddad or something,
something like that.
Yes.
Wasn't there an old song that I'm my own grandpa or something like that?
Something like that.
There was a funny song back in the 50s and 60s. I'm my own grandpa.
Yeah, and my cousin's Uncle Larry, and something like that. Yeah, I remember it. Yeah. So. I laughed about the Marcus Aurelius bit because my ex-partner was Mark Anthony. And I used to say to him, considering your parents and your background, that was a pretentious bloody name they gave you.
So anyway, there's a story going on with the bed and breakfast that he stays at. There's a story going on, with the Battle of Lake Erie. There's a story going on with a couple of people that he meets along the way. So there's a lot of little sub stories going on in here, and I'm getting to the point now where I've got to bring it all together and start crafting an end. So, but now you remember if Time and Place had the Hecate's wheel in it, right?
Yeah.
The glyph carving on the in the church basement.
Yeah.
Well, that plays heavily into this story too. So there's one of the Easter eggs right there.
So is that a portal? Is that going to be a portal?
Yes.
Sort of thing. Aha.
Yeah. But not necessarily for Marcus.
Oh. Oh, right. Okay.
So,
all right.
Like I say, there's a lot of little twists and turns. Not quite to the extent yet that of Time and Place had in it.
Okay.
So,
right.
But
unfortunately, I can't get out of my mind Easter eggs. I'm trying to think how squishy I can make them.
Well, think about it, Martin. When kids go out on Easter morning, they find all the Easter eggs. Well, it's an American tradition, so I don't know if you guys do it over there, but
yeah,
they go out and find all the Easter eggs that have been hidden. All right.
Yeah.
And they usually so that's why they call them Easter eggs.
No, I'm fully aware of the
term Easter eggs, borrowed from video game technology. Is where a lot of video game designers will hide an Easter egg that if you hit that, even at Disney World, they have them on a couple of the rides, not Toy Story Mania, the other one, Buzz Lightyear, where you're shooting a laser cannon. And there's certain places in there that if you hit it just the right way, you get bonus points, like in the tens and hundreds of thousands. And that's what they call an Easter egg, So they hide these little things, throughout, the game or the story or whatever that take you someplace else or give you bonus points or whatever. You get a little present for your efforts. So I've just started doing that in the last 3 or 4 books, and it helps me try to tie the stories together. Because remember, I've said my books don't have to be read sequentially.
No, they stand alone.
They stand alone, but to try to get people to read some of the other ones or to see a connection between them all, I've been trying to hide Easter eggs. So anyway, I think we probably run out of things to talk about.
No, Martin might have a bit to read, and I've got a bit ready.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Then in that case, go right ahead. Martin, we'll start with you.
Okie dokie. Hang on a minute. My mouse has died. Get down, Shep. Right, here we go. A little bit from Auntie Mary Moves Home. First chapter, possibly. It's up to you, this, Mike. But anyway, we'll go to... Where are we? Right, here's the beginning. I'll read you a few bits and pieces. Right, here we go. Arthur Bingle was struggling. He was sure that Mrs. Stroud, the warden, had put instructions for the brand new microwave inside the bureau top drawer in the corner of the living room. Pulling on the handle for what seemed to be the 30th time, it finally released its grip and followed his hands effortlessly towards him. Almost losing his balance, Arthur stood for a few seconds while he recovered. Once more feeling steadyish, the octogenarian pulled his trademark checkered flat cap back onto his usual position. With the peak angled slightly downwards, Bessie used to say it gave him a charming but mysterious look. Arthur placed the contents, packed tightly inside the hardwood drawer, one by one onto the old-fashioned drop-leaf table for closer examination. He sat down on the plush chair that he used to eat his frugal daily meals, ignoring the bibs and bobs. Arthur reached across the table, grasping the scattered paperwork and placing the collection into a tidy pile. Now, the story then wanders on. He meets the lady that actually runs the old folks' home. Then all the gang start to arrive. Auntie Mary decides she's had enough of where she's living. She wants to go and be, looked after. So she moves in, but somehow or other, she found out they don't like pets. So as we all know from the first book, or maybe we don't, but anyway, the first book, a big character was Larry, her pet vulture, and she managed to smuggle him in. And anyway, the story goes on and on and on through the different comedic scenes, as I like to think of them. And anyway, that's sort of a taster of how it's going to go. Right, I've got to try and find you guys.
I'm still having trouble wrapping my head around the idea of a pet vulture, especially considering what they eat and what comes out the back end after they've eaten.
Correct. Yeah. In fact, there's one scene where they're trying to catch a criminal. They suspect it's actually the handyman, but they can't prove it. So what they decide to do is take one of Larry's half-digested rats and stuff it down the plug hole. And of course, the smell's atrocious, and anyway, the story goes on from there.
I'm glad I've got you listed as a humorist, Martin.
Weirdo, most people say, but what the heck?
Oh God.
Now, having had a vulture actually fly by me and precision bomb me once, it was not pleasant.
No,
that gives me a good idea for an Easter egg.
Moving right along. And now for something completely different.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, Pat.
No. I'm still chuckling at that. Yes. And as my first husband used to say, "Yes, et was Andres," and now for something completely different. They heard the whistling of the postboy and the clatter of his bicycle as he again failed to use the stand correctly. The boy chapped on the door. Murdoch leapt to his feet and went to see what, if anything, the postie had for him. James Little stood grinning at him. "Happy birthday, Murdoch. Not too long and I'll be 18 as well. I'm fair fed up wearing shorts on these cold mornings," he said, handing Murdoch a clutch of envelopes. He turned and, straddling his bike, he headed down the long hill to the road to the village. He was laughing raucously as he hurtled down, both legs off the pedals at almost waist level, stuck out like wings. Murdoch laughed too at the sight, then turned into the house and back to the table. His brown parcel was there now. By his brown parcel there was now a long leather case. He stopped and looked at it, tentatively stroking the engraved initials on the side. There on the dark tan leather were struck MLL. His father stood up, offering his son his hand. He said with a cough in his throat, "Happy birthday, son." Murdoch sat down and opened it. The shotgun was not new. It had been his papa's gun. The man had been everything to Murdoch. He'd taught him the crafts of a farmer, a hunter, and a fisherman. Murdoch could hit a grouse on the wing better than most in the area. And could tickle a salmon out of the water before it knew what had happened. He trailed deer all over the hills and woods and was often called on by the local laird to act as ghillie for some hobnobbing southerner up for the shooting in August. "Oh, Dad, thank you. I'll treasure it." He then turned his attention to the parcel his mother had given him. He was lifting the contents clear of the table when he noticed a look pass between father and mother.
Oh, wow.
It's set in the late spring of 1943, and Murdoch has just got his first pair of long trousers. As an 18-year-old, he is now considered a man.
Right. So now for our American viewers and readers, explain why that is significant, please.
Because back in sort of the early 1900s, to the mid-1900s, I suppose, boys did not get long trousers until they were men. And between 16 and 18, depending on the finances and the place where they were. If they were in cities, it was probably 16. I've got a photograph of my father that was taken on his 16th birthday in his first pair of long trousers. And it was a day of acknowledgement having those long trousers. It intimated that you had reached maturity.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, reaching maturity in 1943 meant other things, and letters in brown envelopes with Her Majesty's service on them arrive.
Or as we used to call them here in the States, greetings, friend notices.
Yeah, well.
Or greetings, basically greetings from the Secretary of War or Secretary of Defense, whichever.
But the story is Red Letter Day, and it begins with the red letter of his birthday being on the same day as the Lord's Ascension Day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's his birthday on May 10th.
Right.
And I think it's May 10th anyway. But May 13th, I beg your pardon. Mm-hmm. And then the Red Letter Day, that was something, I don't know how many people know the beginnings of that, but Red Letter Day came about as a phrase because of the Catholic calendar, mm-hmm. having the saints' days and feast days marked in red on the calendar. And that now, of course, has different connotations to it, the phrase, it's a Red Letter Day. Mm-hmm. And so the Red Letter Days, through his journey in this story, mm-hmm. Are significant.
Wow. Like Sandy said in her comment, we're just going from funny on Martin's side to serious and touching on yours.
Yeah, it's I may go back to the end of this and mm-hmm. elongate it into mm-hmm. a much longer short story, because I liked Murdoch. Mm-hmm. And as Martin knows, it's not a very long story for him in this story.
No.
And I might extend that a bit, because I like Murdoch, and I like the idea that he was excited getting his first pair of trousers, and who his heroes were. Because in those days they didn't have the kind of hero stuff that is around nowadays. People think that celebrities are heroes.
Right.
Even when I was a teenager, what's her name? She's a war correspondent, something Adie, Kate Adie, yeah. in the UK. Mm-hmm. She was really up there as a war correspondent, getting right into sort of the war zones and things. Mm-hmm. And she was my heroine. My father thought that Edmund Hillary was brilliant, mm-hmm. and also had football heroes. Proper, they'd really done something and they weren't getting paid millions of pounds for it.
Right.
That kind of heroism. And that was, in those days, that was the kind of heroism that was recognized, not, mm-hmm. managing to bed the Princess of Wales or whatever. or the Princess of anywhere. I don't want to end up with the police and MI5 knocking on my door saying, Kate has not been. I'm not saying she has. I'm just saying, as
it's treasonous talk.
Sorry?
It's treasonous talk, that.
I'm going to quote my favorite quote in the whole world. How can I be guilty of treason when this king is not mine? It's not exactly the word, but I've changed it because it's king here. I do not recognize this royal family as being my sovereign. So how can I be guilty of treason?
Ooh.
True bloke.
Anyway, moving on to a different subject. So for anybody that's tried to access the Lineage Independent Publishing website, which is https://www.lineage-indypub.com, the site is under construction because we're moving from one platform to another. It'll probably be at least a week before it's ready for prime time. It's coming in dribs and drabs, but once it gets there, I'm liking what I'm seeing with the new hosting platform. Like I say, it's when I said before we started, it's taking me a long time to get used to their software to be able to update the page. So, but once I get it done, I'm sure it'll be an improvement. The other thing that I think we need to close with is just a little bit more about where we're all from and how this mishmash of authors managed to get together. I mean, we started off with just me, obviously. I'm an American living, between Baltimore and Washington, D.C., right smack in the middle of the East Coast of the United States. And back in 2019, late 2019, early 2020, I added Lisa Talbot to the mix, who unfortunately couldn't join us today. She is a British subject living, retiring in the nether regions of Portugal, along with her nonagenarian mother, who is as spry and mobile as anybody I've ever seen at that age, if not more so. And then we expanded from there to Pat, who is in East Sussex.
Begins with B.
I'm sorry?
Begins with B.
Yeah, Bexhill-on-Sea.
Oh,
Yeah, Bexhill-on-Sea in East Sussex on the Channel Coast of England. All right. Then after that, we added Lorna Hart, who is up in Kington,
East Anglia.
Hertfordshire. I think she's up in the Midlands somewhere, up towards the Midlands, towards the Wales side of the country.
Okay.
Yeah, up over that way.
I'm not sure where she is.
Yeah, I'd have to look at a map, but she's the heart of England, if you will. And then we added Rebecca Connolly Bruce, who, by the way, is not with us today.
Mike.
Yes.
I think Rebecca came before Lorna.
Did she? Either way,
Yeah.
they were about the same time. And Rebecca, unfortunately, couldn't join us today. She recently lost her daughter, Rachel, about the same time her last book, Cranberry Wine, was being released. And so for her to engage in a broadcast such as this, it was a hit or miss proposition anyway. And she told me before we started that she just wasn't ready to participate. And having been in that same situation myself, I know exactly what she's talking about. So, and then last but not least is Martin, who lives in the same town as Pat.
Yes. In the same district.
Yeah.
Literally, we could throw stones almost at each other.
You've got almost the same postcode, right?
I got it.
You've got almost the same postcode, don't you?
Almost.
TN40. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, TN40.
So anyway, we've been here for almost an hour. Boy, time flies when you're having fun.
Doesn't it just?
Yeah. So I'll go ahead and wrap things up. This has been Monday Badness, Lineage Independent Publishing's aperiodic Monday group grope, if you will.
Group what?
Group
grope. What?
Group grope.
I take umbrage at that. I have not been here being groped by you two.
All right. Group gaggle.
That'll do.
All right. Was that any better? Group gaggle. That's what we used to call staff meetings in the federal government occasionally.
That's not what grope means here.
But anyway. Completely lost it.
Oh my Lord. Oh, my son's going to have
to
say to you, Mike.
All right. Anyway, so this has been Lineage Independent Publishing's Monday Madness. With me today have been Pat Donahue, who writes under the nom de plume G.B. Carmichael, Martin Radford, who writes under the nom de plume Beck Hilliard, which, if you think about it, Bexhill, right? Beck Hilliard is kind of a play on words for the town he's from. So, and we thank everybody for watching this broadcast either live or after the fact, and hopefully you'll join us again in the future.
Thank you, and good night.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.